That day was my greatest test, when success stopped being a blessing and turned into a fire ready to burn me alive. If you do not hear my full story, you will never understand what true struggle really means. I never thought success could feel like a silent nightmare, something that slowly erodes your soul while everyone around you cheers. For years, I worked harder than anyone else. I gave up family dinners, missed birthdays, and sacrificed friendships, believing that sweat and tears would buy me a better future. Every day was a battle with exhaustion and doubt, but I pushed myself harder, telling myself, this pain is temporary. Success will fix everything. I wanted to believe it. When success finally came, it was nothing like I imagined. Instead of relief or happiness, I felt a crushing weight settle on my chest, a pressure so heavy it made me question everything I had done. Suddenly, the praise felt like poison. Every compliment was a reminder that I was expected to be flawless, that I could never stumble. The spotlight felt cold and unforgiving, and the loneliness crept in like a slow, deadly fog. I was surrounded by people, yet completely isolated. The nights were the worst. Lying awake, heart racing, drowning in the fear that I was not enough, that this success was a fragile mask waiting to shatter. I thought about quitting, walking away from it all. But I was terrified of what that would mean: failure, shame, letting down everyone who believed in me. I carried a secret burden, the fear that the success I worked so hard for would be the thing that finally broke me. My mind became a battlefield. Doubts whispered lies that cut deeper than any words ever could. You're a fraud. You don't deserve this. It will all come crashing down. Sometimes I cried alone in my car, tears burning hotter than the late night coffee I drank to stay awake. No one saw the cracks behind my forced smiles, the exhaustion behind my eyes. This story is not just about success. It is about how it almost destroyed me, how it forced me to confront my deepest fears, my darkest moments, and how, through relentless hard work and sheer will, I fought back. I learned that success is not just a destination, but a battlefield where the hardest fight is often inside your own heart. The days after that night felt like I was living in a nightmare I could not wake up from. Success, which I once chased like a lifeline, became a cage tightening around me. I was exhausted, not just physically, but in my soul. Every morning, I dragged myself out of bed, feeling like I was walking through quicksand. My heart pounded with a mix of fear and shame because I was supposed to be happy. I was supposed to have made it, but instead, I was crumbling inside, piece by piece. At work, the pressure was relentless. Deadlines blurred into sleepless nights. Emails piled up. Meetings stretched endlessly. And all the while, a voice inside screamed that I was not enough. You are a failure, it whispered. Soon, everyone will see you are a fraud. I smiled through meetings, laughed at jokes, and nodded at compliments. But inside, I was breaking. My hands trembled when no one was watching. I avoided calls because I was too afraid to explain the chaos inside my head. One afternoon, everything shattered. I was sitting at my desk when a simple comment from a colleague, "Are you okay?" hit me like a punch in the gut. I blinked back tears, but they spilled anyway. Hot, silent tears that ran down my cheeks as the walls I built crumbled. I was alone in a crowded room, and the pain was unbearable. I felt utterly exposed and terrified. That moment was my breaking point, the rawest, most vulnerable I had ever been. I wanted to scream, to run, to disappear. That night, I called my closest friend. I told her everything. The fear that I would lose it all, the loneliness that felt suffocating, the weight of living a lie. My voice cracked, and I could barely breathe between sobs. For the first time, I didn't try to hide my pain or pretend I was okay. And something incredible happened. Instead of judgment or distance, she listened. She held me through the phone, telling me I was not alone, that it was okay to be broken. That call was the beginning of my healing. I realized I could not face this storm alone. I reached out for help, mentors who had walked similar paths, therapists who guided me through the darkest places. I learned that hard work was not just about pushing past pain, but about embracing vulnerability, setting boundaries, and rebuilding myself with compassion. It was the hardest work I had ever done. Slowly, I started to piece myself back together. I celebrated every small victory, the days I smiled without forcing it, the nights I slept without fear. I forgave myself for the mistakes, the doubts, the moments I almost gave up. Success stopped being a distant, painful dream and became a journey of courage, resilience, and hope. And through it all, I discovered a truth stronger than any achievement. Real strength comes from rising after you fall. Rebuilding myself was the hardest fight I had ever faced. Each morning, I woke up to a war inside my mind, a fierce battle between the fear that wanted to pull me back into darkness and the tiny flicker of hope I was desperately trying to protect. Some days, I felt like I was losing, like the cracks inside me were too deep to fix. I would stare at my reflection and wonder, who am I now? Am I still the person I dreamed of becoming? But slowly, something began to shift. I stopped believing that success was just about pushing harder or grinding non-stop. I realized it was about surviving the fight, about healing the wounds I had ignored for too long. I learned to say no when I needed rest, to ask for help when the weight was too much. These were foreign lessons, ones I had never allowed myself to learn before, but they saved me. One of the most painful things was forgiving myself, forgiving the times I broke down in private, the times I felt weak and scared, forgiving the moments when I thought I had failed. I came to see those not as failures, but as the proof of being human, flawed, fragile, and real. I began sharing my story with those I trusted, and instead of judgment or distance, I found something I never expected: understanding, compassion, and strength in vulnerability. As I embraced my true self, the pressure that once threatened to destroy me changed. It did not vanish, but I learned to carry it differently, with grace, with patience, with self love. I started celebrating small victories: the days I smiled without forcing it, the nights I slept without fear. My definition of success changed. It was no longer just about achievements or applause. It became about resilience, about rising again and again, even when every part of me wanted to give up. Looking back now, I see how close I came to breaking completely. But I did not let success win. Hard work saved me. Not just the hard work of ambition and drive, but the harder work of healing and growing. This is the story of that transformation, the journey from pain to power, from breaking down to building up, stronger, wiser, and whole. The hardest battle was not the climb to success, it was the fight to keep myself alive when everything inside me wanted to give up. Even after the worst storms passed, the shadows lingered. Some nights I lay awake, heart pounding, haunted by the fear that all my progress could vanish in an instant. Would the cracks I fought so hard to hide finally break me? Would I lose everything and fall back into that dark place? But then, something inside me shifted. I realized that true success was never about perfection or never feeling pain. It was about standing up, trembling and scared, and choosing to keep going anyway. I chose to stop running from my fears and instead face them head on. I embraced my scars, my mistakes, my darkest moments, not as weaknesses, but as badges of honor for surviving the fight no one sees. I started to rebuild my life on new terms, no longer chasing empty applause, but seeking peace, balance, and meaning. I surrounded myself with people who saw my true self, flawed, fragile, and fighting, and loved me anyway. I celebrated small victories that once seemed insignificant. A day without anxiety, a smile that came from my heart, a moment of stillness in the chaos. But the journey was far from over. There were moments when the past threatened to drag me back into despair, when fear clawed at my soul with everything it had. Those were the moments that tested my resolve. Would I fall, or would I rise again, stronger than before? Each time, I chose to rise. Looking back now, I see that success almost destroyed me, but it also forged me into someone unbreakable. Hard work saved me, not by shielding me from pain, but by teaching me how to face it, how to survive it, and how to turn it into strength. This story is my truth, a raw, unfiltered journey through darkness and into light. If you are listening and struggling, know this: you are not alone. The path is hard, the nights are long, but you can rise. Your pain does not define you. Your fight is your power. And success, real success, is built on the courage to keep moving forward, even when you feel broken. If you enjoyed this video and it touched your heart, please consider subscribing to my channel. Your support means the world to me and helps me keep creating more stories like this. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Love.